Oh, good. I'm gonna make that my Discord.
Right. Let's hope this works. There we go. Intro song should be playing.
How long do we have? I mean, until the show starts with this intro song. Okay. Is this particular games or is it like movie talk as well? Black Panther or something?
Might dive into it.
I haven't seen it yet. I was curious. Like I didn't know if it was just in the games or general geek.
I think your mics are hot right now.
Oh.
Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome to the Class vs. Crass Gaming Podcast. I'm your one and only host tonight, Jason Lapine, as Sean is away, currently moving to his new life somewhere in the United States. I don't know where he's moving, somewhere near Philly. But tonight we have a special guest joining us. I would love to introduce you to Drekken Pownz of esports. Drekken, how are you?
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, you beautiful people. I am super fantastic.
Great. So tonight we're going to be doing a little bit of a different show. There's a lot of new things, actually, first of all. First off, let me know if there's any problems with the audio or anything like that, because we are I'm using an entirely new software. Everything is new on my end, so I'm freaking out a little bit. If anything goes wrong, just let me know and I'll try to fix it. But this is supposed to be better. So
everything is new. Like
everything is new. The co-host is new.
Everything's new.
The artwork is new.
I could pretend to be Sean.
Yeah, I don't know if you can be crassy enough to be Sean.
I could maybe make it.
Can you piss in a bottle live? He pisses in his own soda in front of everybody. Yeah, and he puts his chest hair on fire too.
Oof. Okay, maybe I can't. I take that back. Backpedal.
The master of chairs, yes. Drekken is quite the chair salesman over there.
Chairs galore.
Yeah, I'm going to have to snag one of those from you.
Yeah.
All right, so tonight we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. So if this is your first time on the Class vs. Crass Gaming Podcast, not your typical podcast. It's usually myself and Sean. Yeah, I don't have Super Chat Ginto because my channel's too tiny. But usually it's a 1 hour podcast where we go over what we've been playing over the past week. Then we go over the major gaming headlines from the past week. And then we do a lightning round. That's where we take your user topics and questions. Tonight we're going to rejigger the whole show a little. We're going to be talking about what we've been playing if we play games. That's a question I have for Drekken. But we're going to have a little bit more of a business-focused chat. Drekken is the owner and founder of esports, has built a lot of companies in I think two, maybe?
Yep. 2
companies in the gaming space, very much involved with esports. So esports is not something we talk a lot about on this show. So no better time to start than now. All right.
I can bring all the esports.
Great, because I certainly can't. So let's get started with the first question. Drekken, do you play games? Do you have time to play games? Do you still play video games?
I that's a question I get a lot because of how busy I I am from doing a lot of esports stuff, but I do find the time to squeeze games in. It's one of those things, like especially holidays like Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving are like my days to like sneak in a whole day of gaming. Like for example, like today or this weekend is Family Day, and I took the opportunity to play Civ. So just before you asked me to be on the show, I got Civ Rise and Fall expansion, and I was playing 5-6 hours. But that's probably the most gaming I've done this month.
Civ, eh?
Civ. I love Civ. Civ and StarCraft. Like I tell people, if it's not Civ and StarCraft, I'm probably not playing it. Though I do have, like most people, an eclectic library of Steam games, which I will snag up. I'm a big fan of puzzle games. I just bought Myst. I don't know if you're familiar with Myst, the Myst series.
Myst Riven.
Yeah.
Riven was one of my first terrible game as a kid.
Oh, man.
It's so hard.
I don't know. I was as a kid, I was really poor, so I couldn't afford Myst. So instead, I got like the knockoffs, like Lighthouse and other games are similar puzzle games that were just like, because Myst was obviously the pinnacle of puzzle games, so a whole bunch of copycats sprung up, and I played those games because they were cheaper. And I realized I'm like, I'm an adult now. I can buy Myst if I want, right? I can totally.
It's your money.
But Myst is but Myst is hard. Myst is a really hard game, and I love it. I love hard games.
I remember when Riven came out. Riven was the sequel to Myst, and it was in the news, and it was being talked about as a game with no violence. And my parents saw that, and they're like, "Oh, a game with no violence. That is good for Jason." You know, as though I had problems with violence. I used to watch the Power Rangers, and they were very anti-Power Rangers. But anyways, so one Christmas I get Riven, and I'm trying to play this game as like a 10-year-old, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on? It's so hard. Like I had a walkthrough, and even the walkthrough I had troubles interpreting.
The thing I like about Myst in general, and I don't know how your show particularly goes, but like I'm a big, like I believe that a lot of games have become too easy, and games right now really don't treat the users like they know what's like that they are intelligent. They just really hold your hand. So I really love games that are super hard and just like don't give anything about, like they don't care about you at all, and they're just like, hey, this is the game, figure it out. Right. And
it's your problem now.
Like, yeah, it's your problem now. And like Myst is very much a game that doesn't care, right? It doesn't care if you doesn't care if you can't beat the level, doesn't care if you get frustrated, it doesn't care, right? It doesn't even tell you a story. There's no story. Like there is a story, but like,
you have to read it. You have to go out of your way and read it.
Yeah, you figure it out. So I'm a big fan of any game that's really hard.
Curious if you find Dark Souls hard, or if you haven't dabbled in that.
So I haven't dabbled in that because I own Dark Souls. Someone gave, because on other shows I've also been just as vocal. Someone gave it to me during a Steam sale, but like most games, it's been sitting in that to be installed game. But Cuphead definitely has my interest. Like I want to get Cuphead at some point because I heard really good things about how difficult that game is.
What about Breath of the Wild?
I don't know. I unfortunately have broken up with Nintendo. Like we broke up. We broke up. It was one of those relationships that I didn't see. I became full PC. I went full PC gaming. Devoted, to me, I left consoles because of the lack of backwards compatibility in the newest generations of games. Nintendo's done a little bit better, but when E3 had rolled around, I was kind of like pissed because I spent so much money on my Xbox library, and I couldn't take that with me to Xbox One. So I was like, nope, that's it, going full PC, and I got rid of all my consoles, and
that's it. You're done. You cut the cord.
PC. Cut the cord. It was hard because there's some games that are on the consoles that were like, I did like the Gears of War series. I did like the Halo series. Like I did enjoy those series, the stories. And I did not get to play Halo 4 and 5. So that's a little hard, but
yeah, I haven't done that. But before we go on, I just wanted to give a special shout out to Ginto for donating $5. Thank you, Ginto, so much for supporting the show and sticking around here. I do recall seeing you here every week. And he says, he or she, they say, love your Class vs. Craft live show. I believe in you. It brings great joy to me to hear you discuss about games and gaming related topics and off topics. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ginto.
StarCraft is something I can relate to with you, though. I haven't played Civilization. Actually, no, wait, before we get into StarCraft, puzzle games. I just completed one yesterday. Have you heard of Rime?
Rime?
Rime, yeah. It just came out last year.
No.
So,
no.
So it's a great short game, maybe 6-7 hours. And it's a game that throws you into a world, doesn't give you a story. There's no text, there's no dialogue at any point ever. And it just says, figure it out, go. But it's not frustrating. The game is designed in such an organic way. And whoever just watched my review today, you're probably hearing the same thing all over again. But it's designed in a very organic way to guide the player. So it's not a frustrating game like, let's say, Myst, and you're never actually going to get stuck. Because if you do, after a while, there's like a fox that barks at you, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll follow the fox, and that's kind of where the path. So yeah, you're not gonna like it for the difficulty, but as an experience, beautiful game, beautiful soundtrack.
Is it a point and click adventure?
No, it's a 3D space puzzle game. And your only ability is pretty much to interact and to jump and to yell, and you yell at things and stuff happens.
That sounds like a little fun. I can enjoy it. Like I can. I just played Machinarium. I think it's called Machinarium.
Machinarium, that's a good one. That's a point and click.
Yeah. I love little point and click, especially the point and click puzzle games. Machinarium was a lot of fun. I recently beat it. Love the art style. Oh my god, so beautiful.
I think I got stuck in the town.
Story. The town can be a little. Oh, man, there were some times where I walked away. I love any game that makes me walk away. I know is a good show. I mean, good game. It's a good game. I enjoy where I'm like, all right, I'm frustrated. I need to leave. Because I refuse to use guides. I don't use any guides.
Right.
And I enjoy that a lot.
So very good. So let's so you do play games, which is good. I have to say that even myself, I find it harder and harder to make time for games.
Very much so.
Especially working for Enthusiast Gaming, building this event. And speaking of this event, for anyone who doesn't know, we do have EGLX, which is Canada's largest video game convention, coming in 3 weeks. I'm freaking out. But that's a good segue, because actually it's because of these events that Drekken and I met at the very first one 3 years ago in 2015, when we were just Nintendo enthusiasts at the time, looking to branch out and make events in the event space. And Drekken was already doing events at the time. And we kind of partnered up.
I remember it like yesterday.
Yeah, I think you still have the badge hanging behind you there somewhere.
Yeah, I do. It is. It's part of my collection.
The first Enthusiast Gaming Live event, which was in 2015, and Drekken was there with ES Champ, correct? In the first one, yeah. And which one were you running? We had a few tournaments going.
2015, so that would have been StarCraft. I was doing StarCraft there as well.
So it was a pretty fun show. We planned it in like 6 weeks.
Oh, and Dota 2 in StarCraft.
Okay. It was a pretty good time. And since then, I've bounced into Drekken throughout the scene here in Toronto and Canada. It's a pretty small scene. You go to a bar, you'll meet everyone in the gaming space, especially if that bar is the esports bar of Toronto, which is
the esports bar in Toronto.
Well, there's a few. There's two, but that's the big one.
Well, yeah.
So Drekken, how you have a little bit more of a backstory before we met at EGL in 2015.
Sure.
From what I've seen from your Facebook stuff, I've never really heard your story, but I understand you used to have a LAN lounge. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
take us back. Where did it all start?
Well, I guess to start
within an hour.
Paraphrase. Yeah, I was like to paraphrase the original story. It would be I was originally a player. I wanted to be a professional gamer, and esports wasn't a thing in North America. It only existed in Korea. And I went to my first tournament and I lost, but I didn't do too bad. Like, I was an online warrior. I played games like religiously, and I lost, and I decided I wanted to step up my practice. Like, I really want to make professional gaming a life, a thing. My parents were like, no, you got to quit. That's not a thing. And if you pursue it, we're going to throw you out.
And times were very different at this time. Esports wasn't talked about the way it is today.
No. It 100% was not a real thing. Like, people didn't really, believe. Like, if you said esports, they say, well, right, like gambling, or you're like, it's like backgammon, digital backgammon. No. Esports. So yeah, it wasn't really a thing back then. But I decided I was going to make a run at it, and I ran into a roadblock with my parents, and decided what I would do instead was combine my love of video games with business, and I would find a way to like support esports in Canada. And I did a lot of research on what was going on in Korea, and I noticed that esports kind of sprung out of PC bungs, they're called, which is like these cafes where people hung out. And some of the very first StarCraft tournaments that were televised, before they were televised, like organically grew out of these PC bungs. So to my head, I was like, oh, I gotta recreate this experiment, but in Canada. Which actually sounds a little ridiculous now that I look at it, but at the time it seemed like genius. Like, it seemed so genius to try to recreate the scenario that sprung esports. So I went to open a LAN center, and right out of college, like straight out of college,
wow.
Imagine this 19-year-old kid, you're going to go start a LAN center with like no funds, no money, no nothing. But I was just like, I'm going to make it happen. And then I ran into reality, which was pretty hard, because, I went to a bank and I'm like, hey, I want to start this up. And I'm like, all right, well, do you have a house? Nope. And like, well, do you have a TFSA or any of these things for collateral? I'm like, nope, just a dream. And
dreaming some sweat.
I had some sweat. I got some sweat. Some sweat, elbow grease. Will that work? And the banker, he looked at me. You
were just 19.
He's a nice guy. Like, I was just like 19 at this time, and I'm like, I have a car, and he's like, all right, awesome. Let's start there. He perked up because he was at first thought it was like, there's no way I could have come into his office with nothing. But he's like, what's the car? I'm like, it's a 1990 Honda Civic. He's like, what's the approximate value? I'm like, I don't know, $500. So he's like, I'm gonna level with you, kid. Look, I could put this through, but you're just gonna get rejected. So you probably should, you should give this up. Shorten that up, I didn't. I actually ended up doing a contest. I did a contest where I had to pitch the idea to this thing called the Canadian Youth Business Foundation, and I won the contest.
Oh, wow.
And what I won in that contest was like a grant, or not a grant, sorry, a loan, but a very low interest loan, based on the idea without having any credit. And I took this small loan and I ran off to go start my LAN center.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that like it was only like 10K, which to me at the time seemed like a whole ton of money. But when you learn about starting a business, 10K can evaporate really fast, like so incredibly fast. Because to me, 10K was the most money I've ever seen in my life. So I was like, oh, I did a business plan. I knew that I need X, Y, Z amount of money, but
because you have to buy your computers, just like to get 8 computers, that's like $8,000 right there.
Right, exactly. So when I ran the calculations, what I did is I realized that computers were just not going to be feasible. So our LAN center was, think of an internet cafe, but instead of computers, it was all consoles.
Oh.
So it was Xbox 360s, all networked together, which was something you couldn't get at the time, because even if you knew a friend who had an Xbox 360, like you couldn't get 16 Xbox 360s all in one network. So that was one of our biggest draws. So think about an internet cafe, but instead of paying to use a computer, you paid to use the Xbox. And then we had Rock Band, like we had a full Rock Band station with all the gear decked out, and we were bumping. It was really, really, really something. Some of the most fun I've ever had in my life was in that LAN center, because you had people who would play Halo, like all 16. It was like you could have a LAN party any day of the week, right? Instead of having to get together with your friends to have a LAN party and carry all your equipment, our LAN center, just like you just got 16 of your friends and you all jumped into a Halo free-for-all or Gears of War free-for-all or...
and to be under the same roof, like you have that energy of being able to cheer and trash talk each other.
It. Like, absolutely. That was it. Like that energy really was the thing that was just, I loved. I felt so much in love with just being in the gaming community, because that energy, when you're like, you're like, I got into it too. Like I played tons with my customers and stuff, where you would be like, you get in and you like shit talk. You turn your head around. You're like, yeah, eat that, right? Like
yeah.
Teabag, like you can. And it was really great energy. The LAN Center was definitely one of my highlights of my life because of just the raw amount of community building that happened from there. I learned so much from that. So
did it ever level up to have computers, or did it always just kind of stay with consoles?
We reached a point where we could have had computers, but I decided the culture itself was consoles. So computers had this cycle of which required you to replace the video card every 2 to 3 years to keep up with the games. So while consoles had a life cycle of 5 years, so it just made sense to stay with the consoles.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, that's where you moved on to making events after, right?
Yeah, so the LAN Center itself attracted sponsors to do events. And then that's when I got into the fighting game community, because they wanted to run Smash Bros. And Street Fighter. And I got really involved with that. I really enjoyed the tournament aspect, the energy. I organized tournaments when I was a kid for Smash Brothers, but just in my basement. Right. So the transition felt really natural to do it at the LAN Center. And then I met sponsors, and MLG Canada came. And when I saw MLG Canada, I got like this taste of like, this is what this could be. So MLG Canada was my first esports event, like in my life, my first real esports event. And the siren call of doing more esports really attracted me to it. So from there, we kind of transitioned. Xbox 360s were kind of ending their life cycle. Like the idea, like things, the business model was changing, and I decided to like wind it down, to shut it down, and focus on esports. That's what I really wanted to do. So I transitioned into events, Fan Expo, Anime North. I focused mainly in conventions. That was just my avenue to practice doing events. So that's what it was. And what I ended up doing.
And now you have this pretty special event now, the Kings of the North. That's all yours, right?
Yeah, Kings of the North is 100% mine. It's like everything I wanted it to be. It is 100% under my creative control.
And so for those who don't know what it is, can you give us a quick synopsis?
Yes. So Kings of the North is one of the North American premier StarCraft events. We focus primarily on the foreign scene. Foreign being anybody who's not really the Korean scene. And it takes place, the live event, the finals of the event happens in Canada. We are on our 5th season this year. So this year will be our 5th season. And it's, to me, my goal with Kings of the North is to be one of the most creative StarCraft events in the scene. So for example, to give you what that means, is like we have a crowning, like an actual crowning of it. We have our trophy is a shield.
And I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you haven't seen our trophy is a shield, like a real life-size shield. So the shield itself is basically half a person's body. You could probably shield yourself from from us. You could. It's made of enough material that you could protect yourself from a light assault. I wouldn't use it to
not assault.
From
the salt. But I guess assault also works. Yeah.
Yeah, you could protect yourself from a few things, but it was it's my baby. It's my baby.
No, it looks really great. But that said, like when you're from an outsider, from someone who doesn't really watch esports that much, like the most I got into esports is Hearthstone. When I was playing that, I would actually watch it. And, you know, being someone who plays a lot of Nintendo stuff, I get pulled in when Nintendo tries to pretend to play at esports with Smash. Because I'm sure you don't take Nintendo seriously when it comes to esports, do you?
Smash Brothers being their most successful esport title. And you know what? Pokemon to a lesser degree. I personally would consider Pokemon an esport, but Nintendo itself has a weird way of treating it.
The 3DS, like the handheld Pokemon, not Pokken Tournament, right?
No. Yeah, the handheld, like the real, like EV training and min-maxing, that Pokemon.
Okay. But you don't think Nintendo acknowledges it properly?
Okay, but Nintendo is like the Disney of gaming. So to them, it's all about family-friendly, accessibility, you know, making sure their characters are painted in the best of light. And all the power to them. I think that really works for them, obviously, naturally. So I can see how they have this very distant approach to esports, because it kind of goes counterintuitive, right? Esports is about celebrating kind of like the 1% in many regards, like the players who are the top, right? The 1% players, the best of the best. That's what esports is. It's like these people are the best of the best. They're number one. They are the top echelon, and that kind of goes counterintuitive to Nintendo, which is like how can we include everybody?
That's a good point.
So
yeah, it is counter to their culture.
It's super counterintuitive.
I never thought of it that way. But I went on a tangent there. What I meant to say was, as an outsider, growing up, especially, StarCraft was kind of the definition of esports for very much of like the early 2000s. You know, we would always hear about these rumors that there was a whole TV station dedicated to just StarCraft. And to me, here in North America, that like blew my mind that, wow, you can watch video games on a TV. Like, that was crazy. And then StarCraft 2 comes out, you know, almost 10 years later, and it kind of like revives that hype. But now you've got a lot more other games that have crawled and created this scene that we all now know as esports. So being someone that, you know, has seen all of that, has seen all that transformation, and who is so heavily involved in StarCraft 2, what I'm seeing is, on my side, StarCraft seems to have almost gone to the shadows next to, you know, the League of Legends, the Hearthstone, the PUBG, all of that stuff. What are your thoughts on StarCraft? Like, do you think it's become more niche? Is it still as loud as it was? And why?
So here's, that's a good question. In the sense that that's a general observation for a lot of people. And I tell people, it's not that StarCraft declined, it's that everything else got bigger faster than StarCraft. StarCraft is naturally in a good, like, in my opinion, a good place now that it's gone free to play. Blizzard has made it a free to play game. There's been a lot more interest in the game, but it's not a PUBG like that. It's not a PUBG. It's not a League of Legends, and it's certainly not a Dota or a CS:GO. And I think StarCraft is in a good place right now in terms of size. Like, I don't know, because here's the thing: people want numbers. People want to see numbers. People want to see big, huge, filled stadiums across North America, kind of thing. And I'm kind of a contrarian. I'm kind of, not that I'm against the idea of big numbers. I like big numbers, but I also want big community. I'm a big person about the community, and I'm a big person about that intimate relationship between the players, fans, organizers. I love that, like, almost grassroots but still professional feel. And StarCraft still keeps that, where I feel something like League of Legends, Dota, these kind of things are kind of peeling, like, you know, Overwatch, like the distance between the community and its players and everyone, it's growing with their size naturally. So personally, I'm like, if you ask from a personal, you know, passionate person perspective, I love the size of StarCraft right now, which is probably why I'm still there. From a business perspective, you're like, okay, well, where's your biggest kind of ROI kind of thing.
Right.
And StarCraft itself, I think, is in this really nice sweet spot where it's big enough where you can put an event on that won't, like, the risk of your financial risk isn't super high in terms of like a League of Legends like more of a Dota where the prize pools are $250,000 almost to start, or $125,000 to start for a top tier event.
Right.
While at StarCraft, you can get away with a $50,000 tournament and still get a good response from the community, a good response from the teams, and it's a really good place to start.
But what's causing that gap? Like, you're saying these League of Legends, Dota, they have to start at $150,000, at $250,000 prize pools. Why are those prize pools accepted as the minimum? But this game that's been around longer, that I would assume has a larger community, it's okay to have a lower price. But why do you think that is?
Well, first, StarCraft is solo, so that really changed the dynamic of the prize pool. Because technically the prize pool isn't too much not in proportion, because like if you think about $125,000 prize pool for a for a Dota tournament, which is kind of on the low end in terms of premier, but that has to be divided up by 5 players on a team and first, second, third at a minimum. First, second, third.
True.
So that technically that's 15 people who have to get a decent amount of prize pool to make it worth it. Like, when I say worth it, like in comparison to other tournaments being run, because that's what drives up the prize pool, is other tournaments also running tournaments, like, competing for those players and those teams' time. So that really drives up the prize pool sort of demand.
Right.
So that's where that number grows, is like, what's the competition like, right? How many other people are trying to run a tournament? If someone's running a tournament for 125,000 and you want players to join, then you're going to be like, all right, my tournament is 200,000 because I want you in my tournament. And then another thing that really drives it, you want to draw them. But the real thing that really drives the prize pool is things like the international. Like, that raises everybody's ceiling, because the expectation raises with that. So, those are the kind of things where that's why those prize pools. But StarCraft is a little different because it's a solo game. So for somebody in a $50,000 prize pool and someone wins, even if you say that's 70% of that prize pool, right? That's like, $32,000 or I don't want to do math on stream, but like $32,000. That's still pretty good for one person, right? So, it's kind of like, it's like a healthy amount, right? So,
and now without, I don't want to put you on the spot here, and on record to say anything, but talking about Blizzard, they've got quite a few IPs now, and of course StarCraft being one. But I'm seeing in the chat you got Kat talking about Overwatch, and Sergeant Crack saying they're trying to push like their other games. Do you feel sometimes that Blizzard is like, do you feel like they're treating their IPs equally? Do you see all of like the other competitive IPs, like Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, all that? Like, they're very different games. Do you see them like working cohesively together, or are you seeing them, Blizzard being the type of company that really just focuses on one or two as kind of their premier, and then the other stuff they just support to keep going?
Oh, I like that question. StarCraft, Blizzard works in teams, right? Their games are teams. They're broken into teams, and the individual teams are very dedicated. What they would probably, and I obviously don't work for Blizzard, so I have been in meetings with people who do work for Blizzard. I deal with them like from a tournament perspective, but from as I understand it, is they work in teams, and the people in those teams are very passionate about their games. Like the people who work on Overwatch, the people who work on Dota, the people who work on Heroes of the Storm, people who work on StarCraft, those teams, those people who work in are incredible. Like, they're giving it 100%. They're going to be like, I'm going to push my game.
For sure.
Like, above and beyond. But resources, like any organization, are scarce, right?
Yeah.
So Blizzard may have a lot of money, but they have to give that money to certain people certain times based on what they're going to get out of it.
Right.
So, Blizzard's the kind of company that will divvy up the resources appropriately.
Right.
That's just how it goes. Is that if they see Overwatch is going to be the highest potential, you're going to give Overwatch the most money. Like, that's just how it goes. And if they were to see StarCraft suddenly to be the one that has the most potential, I'm sure you would see that too.
Right.
But it's not about it's not about just towing the line. There is, and it feels like, I have to admit, like, it does feel like that. Even from me as a StarCraft, you hear it a lot where people are like, Blizzard doesn't care about StarCraft. But we still get content updates, right? We still get a lot of love. Like StarCraft Remastered just happened. That's something they didn't have to do.
True. Right?
They could have left that alone. They could have just left that game alone and not given it any love. There's rumors of a Warcraft 3 remake, right? That's currently going through the grapevines. A whole bunch of Warcraft players ran off to Blizzard headquarters. It's still it's a rumor. Obviously, I don't know anything, so don't run off and tweeting about it. But it's popped up where people are thinking a Warcraft 3 remake or Warcraft 4. Who knows?
Yeah.
Is on the horizon. I don't think it's a Warcraft 4 because BlizzCon is already gone, and they would never announce a game without it being at BlizzCon. So that's like kind of moot.
But you're seeing them really embrace kind of the old games, like with the recent World of Warcraft vanilla release. Is that what they're calling it, or World of Warcraft? I don't know. It's something else. But bringing back the original settings of World of Warcraft, you're seeing that they're going back to please their original fans from a decade ago, 1 or 2 decades ago.
Yeah. It was like they are refreshing their IPs, and then I noticed someone put Diablo 4. They're like Diablo being the one that kind of is in this weird position right now. It's probably the game that has the weirdest situation where it hasn't really seen any kind of love. But like, I don't see Blizzard abandoning it like completely. They just resources get just shuffled around, right?
I never understood that community. Like Diablo 2 had this massive community, and I also haven't played much of it, but
yeah, like I said, like I don't know enough about Diablo, but
right.
I think that it's like I think the whole marketplace fiasco really had a big impact on it. With the I guess I want to say before the expansion. It's like I don't know the full thing, but it had a rough start. It had a very weird rough start.
Which one's that?
Real world, like if I remember correctly, Diablo 3 had real world money attached to their marketplace, and it kind of was all over the place. It just kind of they had to revamp the marketplace, and then the game stabilized. I don't know how it affected, but it definitely had a negative effect to the game. And then eventually they revamped the marketplace, and an expansion, or update came, and the game now, from what I've heard, is in a much better place. But
I had that initial, similar to completely unrelated, but No Man's Sky, that came out terrible. It's a terrible press. But I saw someone review it a year after. It was actually on Destructoid. One of the writers made a video about what it looks like a year after, and I hadn't seen any of this press, mainly because I didn't care. But they added a lot to the game, and they kept expanding and fixing it. And apparently, the game is like entirely different from what it was at launch. So
the worst part is, though, sometimes is that the bad press that it got in the beginning will keep people from trying it out, right?
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Like, I wouldn't try No Man's Sky right now, only because of, well, A, it's not my type of game, but B, the backlash was really hard. And you know what? I never designed a game, but I have friends who do design games, and I could only find something like that very heart crushing. I imagine it must be very soul crushing to make a game and have it like flop. It has to be soul crushing.
Yeah, because every story you hear about game development is always a horror story. People almost being hospitalized or going almost through divorces just to get a game out. And to put so much of your life, your energy, your soul into something, just to have like internet trolls destroy it and getting personally attacked and
like I hear it wasn't like the game itself wasn't finished, like or I guess as I understood it, the game itself wasn't finished, or it wasn't as advertised or whatever.
Not as advertised, yeah.
Not as advertised, but that stuff can come in, and I think. I don't know if I feel like they're a byproduct of the nature of game design today, where, you're under these publisher deadlines to produce a game that is commercially viable, and you're going to have to cut corners a little bit, right? To make sure the marketing team will say one thing and the dev team will say another.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
different priorities.
I think they're just a byproduct of. You know what game really tricked me? Oh my god, Dead Island. That game was Dead Island I think it won an award for like the best trailer ever. If you ever want to get a chance, like I recommend Google Dead Island trailer. Okay. It is the most heart-throbbing.
How long is it? Can we watch it right now?
Yeah, we totally could watch it. I highly recommend it. Okay. It's one of those things where. Okay, pull it up. Let's go. Let's pull it up right now. Maybe like two.
What's it called?
Dead Island. I guess E3. I guess it might have been an E3 release trailer, but you know what? It was so popular. There's no way you can't find
official announcement trailer. Is that the one? From 7 years ago, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 2000.
All right, let's make sure. Let's just
2011. Okay, yeah, that one.
Let me just run this ad. You won't be able to see it, Drekken, but
that's fine. If the stream can see it,
the stream will be able
to bring
to
back memories for them.
Let's get this set up so that you guys can see. Oh, look at that. That looks really good. Oh, resolution's going to be shit, though. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Let's see what we can do.
18.
Hopefully they can hear the music, too, which is really important.
Yeah, they can hear it, yeah. So let's get rid of these comments or annotations. Shit.
So
sad.
Right? So that was like the hypest trailer of its time, and it won like awards.
Wow. It's the one where like it's all played in rewind almost, right?
Yeah, so it won like a ton of awards, like outside of gaming. Like it won like awards outside of gaming. And the problem is the game is actually like super garbage. So it's like
well, that's what the chat's saying. People are like, it's nothing like this.
It's like the game is absolutely nothing like that. So it's it's like the perfect example because the game the trailer was so good. Like it got so much attention because like people are sharing it because you're like, oh my god, what is this game? This game looks so legit.
But there was
so
no gameplay.
Hype.
That was no gameplay.
No gameplay, zero gameplay. But you get all the hype, right? The marketing team went to town and made this trailer, and it worked. Like it was legit. Now you play the game, you're like, oh, this game is shit. Like this.
You know what this to bring into modern times? You know what this is reminding me of? What other game have we been seeing a lot of hype and no gameplay to recently? Come to mind with babies and throats and stuff. What's that one called? What's the name of that game? There's like ink and fetuses everywhere, and that one actor from The Walking Dead. This is like the worst way to describe this trailer in this game. The Kojima game. The Kojima game.
Oh, wasn't that
Death?
That wasn't Silent Hill.
No, it's not out yet. Nobody knows what it looks like or what it's about.
Oh, no.
Do you know the one I'm talking
Stranding.
about? Death Stranding. Yes. Have you?
I actually haven't seen the trailer yet for it though.
You haven't seen the last like every E3 it comes up, and it's just the most crazy like.
Wait, wasn't that game? I thought that game was canceled. Wasn't that the game that was with something Reedus, guy from Walking? Walking Dead?
No, that game is still going.
I thought that got canceled.
Every new trailer just gets weirder. The last one, who's that actor's name?
Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus. Like I think he was pregnant, if I remember right, in the last one, or something. He had a baby. Like it's weird. It's weird, man.
And just like I don't know, and it's like it's exactly that really kind of turns me off from a lot of games because like that Dead Island trailer is perfect. I'm a big zombie. I love zombies. I love like Silent Hill. Other than strategy games and puzzle games, I love survival horror games and the genre. Actually, survival horror genre games, movies, books. Like I am all over survival horror. Pardon?
Favorite zombie movie?
I like zombie. I love zombie. Love zombie.
What's your favorite?
My favorite zombie movie would have to be oh my god. This could be seem
no judgment,
cheesy, but Night of the Living Dead, and I actually like the very first Resident Evil. I loved.
Oh wow.
Resident Evil. Yeah. As much as the other ones really failed the IP, the first Resident Evil movie I found really enjoyable because it was low budget, and they had no choice but to, make a good a decent run at it.
Mm-hmm. You're not the first person to say that.
But then it did really well, unfortunately, and then like anything that does well gets screwed over because the budget increases and they're like, what can we cram into that? Mm-hmm. So Night of the Living Dead is definitely one of my
all right,
all-time favorite.
So zombies and esports aside, we usually do go over the headlines for the last week.
Sure.
So we're gonna go very light. There wasn't too much to talk about. What about E3? Well, there was the E3 floor plans, which I found interesting. But do you follow E3 at all? Does E3 interest you in any way in terms of strategy, marketing, business, and any aspect of it? Like as an esports E3, enthusiast, there's nothing for you there, right?
No, there's absolutely nothing. I usually kind of zone out for E3, and I watch everything. Like I follow Twitter when E3 comes around because I'm not super into it.
Well, actually,
it's marketing hype, right? It's a lot of marketing hype.
Yeah, but this angle might interest you because you said your gaming lounge had a lot of Xboxes and you were a lot into that. So the big story right now is that some early floor plans have been shown of E3 and what the booth locations are going to be and their sizes. and you've got Nintendo and PlayStation right next to each other, pretty much equal size, some of the biggest booths on the floor. And historically, you would have kind of Nintendo and then PlayStation and Xbox all together, Xbox, PlayStation being the biggest, and then Nintendo being smaller. This year, Xbox, boop, completely in another hall, in like this little like phone booth vendor size booth. It just looks tiny. It looks tiny, and a lot of people, such as myself, are looking at that and are saying, what's going on with Microsoft? Where's Xbox going? Like, we all know that they've had struggling a lot with first party IPs, whether they're not good or they're being canceled. So knowing that, do you think that's a red flag?
No, here's the thing though. I feel like E3 over the last 5 years has really been divested of its power. Because E3 used to be a gatekeeper for the audience of displaying games and like if you had a new game to go, it had to come out at E3. Like you had to bring it to E3.
Right.
Now you have so many options. You can go to PAX, right? You can totally just go. You can go to GDC, right? You can go to Tokyo Game Show,
right?
And you know what? Why don't you host your own? Like Nintendo basically just like says, "Fuck it, whatever. We'll do our own kind of Nintendo Direct."
Yeah.
Right? Which in its name is basically like cutting out the middle person. Direct. We're going straight to the fans.
Right.
Sony has a Sony experience, right? So these guys have basically are like, it wouldn't even surprise me if Microsoft was basically going to do their own thing at the end of the year. Say, hey guys, guess what? We have the Xbox or the Microsoft One experience, or
the one
all
experience.
in one, the all-in-one.
Ooh, I like that.
The one experience, or something like that, right? And then they put all their Microsoft, because Microsoft's all about, connectivity across platforms, and maybe they'll do one giant convention where everything Microsoft is done, and it's like I said, there's just so much more options now, and E3 has become less exclusive. Like, what's that saying? How's that go? That place is so popular, nobody goes there anymore, because E3 used to be very much exclusive. Like you had to fight for a ticket, and it was if you were part of the media, like you trade in a small child to make sure you get a ticket in.
Right.
And now anyone can get in. Anyone can just get into E3. So now it's like, okay, well, I can go to PAX now, right? If you're a person who as someone who works in the gaming industry, I'm sure you can appreciate is that there's so many events happening, like, conventions and whatever, you might have to do a lot of traveling. So if you're like, okay, I don't want to be away from my family, 50% of the year, I only have XYZ events to go to, which ones will I go to? All right, well, I'm going to prioritize PAX, because whatever's at PAX will probably be at E3, and you pick and choose. You pick and choose, right? And PAX has really, really stepped up their game in the last 3 to 4 years. Prime, North, like PAX Prime and North have really.
Where's PAX North?
Actually, not. Is it? Which one is the
South,
second biggest one?
East.
Or is it South?
I
keep getting them all mixed up.
I think they have Southeast in Australia.
I think East is the second biggest
one. The one in Boston, the one close to us is East. Yeah.
East. I think East is the second biggest. I think. Yes, there's not. No, sorry. It was PAX. It's PAX. Pretty sure it's PAX East is the bigger one.
Right.
And Prime, if I remember correctly. I'm getting them all mixed up, but they all have huge opportunities, and they happen more often.
Right. However, like those conventions are more important for like getting people getting hands-on experience on new games. When it comes to announcements, there's nothing quite like the week of E3. That's where you're getting all of these exclusive bombs just dropping everywhere, new trailers.
Absolutely, it's still an experience. E3, I think, is still one of that experience, but I feel like it's diluted.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's been
like the Nintendo Direct has a very similar reaction to the Nintendo fan when they're like, oh, 2 days Nintendo Direct, everyone goes crazy, and then like you're waiting there for an hour, you're like, what's gonna happen? And then the Twitter feed, Facebook, like everything is just going off, like boom, 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 new games announced, and everybody's going crazy. But it's a very targeted, like, here's what you're getting for your demographic or for your
like audience. So like E3 and Nintendo Direct is very much like our Super Bowls, right? We basically are lining up to watch commercials. Like that's what we're getting popcorn. Yeah. We're turning on our Twitter feed, and we're like putting on the couch and putting on our tablet and our TV and on our 3 computers at the same time, so we can watch these commercials. Like that's really, if you boil it down to, that's what we're doing. We're trying to get to a commercial as quickly as possible and like see the next commercial. So yeah, it's very like a Super Bowl. It's a Super Bowl of gaming. But there are others, and I think that's really diluting it. And Nintendo is pretty much showing you like, hey, we can go by ourselves. We don't really need you. We can bring it to the people.
So it's interesting from another point of view, because you're saying, I'm thinking back when I was defending Nintendo when they're like, we're not doing a press conference, and everyone's like, Nintendo's doomed, and I'm like, that's smart. And now I'm seeing Xbox do something different. I'm like, Xbox is doomed. But you're right. This could just be the year that they flip it. That they try something
and really all you need is like really good support, like either Twitch or I guess for them Mixer.
How's that do? Do you use Mixer? How's that?
I absolutely do not. If I wanted to put my stuff in a graveyard, I would buy a shovel. So the content game is hard enough already than putting myself on the moon. Right. So yeah, but like you give that opportunity for your audience to get access to see. So
right,
and it's all about that performance, right? You can hire Circus du Soleil to be anywhere.
For sure, do probably cheaper too.
To do your cheaper, and then to go to E3. So.
All right, and then our next and last topic today. After this topic, guys, we're going to be doing the lightning round. That's where we take user topics and questions. That's anything that you guys want to, especially since we have Drekken here. Guests don't come, they don't come back the following week. We put them back in the closet until the opportune moment. So if you have any questions or comments about anything for Drekken, about esports, anything like that, gear them up. We're going to be picking them up in about 5 minutes or so. But the last topic for tonight comes from a report, and we covered this on the Spawncast yesterday that I was on. Otherwise, I wouldn't have heard about this. But there was a report that came out on gamesindustry.biz, which was very interesting. It was a report on microtransactions. And the headline is 69% of consumers find cosmetic microtransactions acceptable. And then it says, subtitle, only 6% of consumers never spend money on microtransactions. So although there's a lot of noise out there of people saying, boo microtransactions, we don't like them, only 6% of the people they polled, which I don't know what room they polled, say don't actually buy it. So the question I have for you, Drekken, and the conversation I'm looking to have is, microtransactions, are they really as bad as the vocal majority or minority are making it out to be? What are your thoughts on microtransactions?
I don't know. Like, in 2018, are we still attacking microtransaction? I feel like that's a 2016 question. Only in the sense that.
Okay, so how do you think the conversation has evolved?
Like, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like microtransactions are A, commonplace, and B, here to stay. Everyone has moved. Like, every game that you can think of now that wants to survive has adopted some form of microtransaction. What I think is in question right now is like loot boxes is one of those big question marks.
That's like, the big one in 2017 that was making noise.
Yeah, right. So loot boxes in relation to microtransactions are like question mark. Oh my god. But I think as from a consumer's perspective, we are like, we want our games for free. we want our games for free, well, right?
I'm going to argue for the consumer that if I'm paying $60 for a game, don't come back 3 months and say, here's the rest of the game, but it's going to cost you another $20.
That's
or like, oh, you want to play Darth Vader and you don't want to put in 9,000 hours. Well, that's another $5. It's like, well, no, I bought the Star Wars game to play Darth Vader. Huh?
So that's not a microtransaction now. So like, if I have to pay $20 to get a character, that's not a microtransaction. That's a large transaction. That's like a fat transaction. That's not a microtransaction.
So what's your definition of a microtransaction?
A microtransaction is when the platform is the game itself, and the cosmetics generate the revenue in small increments. Small being anywhere from 99 cents to let's say a rough $5. $5 is a healthy spot. So if I have to spend more than $5 for one transaction, then that's no longer a microtransaction. Like that's
an expansion.
That's an like we're getting into like the DLC expansion level. Like, this, like if I could exchange that money to buy a Starbucks Grande or Venti drink, then that was no longer a microtransaction, like straight up. So, yeah, like I'm talking about hats. I'm talking about levels. Like, maps. Maps are fine too. Like it can be anything really, but the transaction needs to be small.
Does it change your perception depending on, if it's a free to play game versus a game, pay entry?
I paid money to get into this game and I have to pay more. Oh, it absolutely changed my perception.
Right.
Like this is not Costco. Right. I shouldn't have to pay to get in and then pay to buy. Right. If I paid to get in, give me my content.
Do they have that in the U.S.? Right? Is Costco a U.S. What? Do people understand?
I believe they're Sam's Clubs. So Sam Clubs. This is not Sam's Clubs. Where I have to pay to get in and then pay to purchase.
Right.
While inside. So it changes my perspective a lot if I have to, pay a gated fee and then again pay. Now, if we're talking about transactions, this is very important too. If I had to pay to get in and then I pay microtransactions for aesthetics, that's different. I'm okay because that's not.
It's optional.
That's optional. But if I have to pay to get in and then I have to pay to get characters,
right,
or maps that are related, that's different. That is a completely different take because I feel like those are part of the core game, which have been locked from me.
Right.
So characters are part of core games. Yeah. Maps can be argued whether or not they're part of core games.
Well, so like a Smash.
But aesthetics.
What about like Smash Brothers, where the character you get your initial roster, and then Mewtwo is announced 6 months later? Do you feel like that is a justifiable one that was not part of the core game, or is that like a character that you're like, no, that should have been in there?
And the funniest part is it depends on how it's presented.
Right.
If I buy the game and the game hasn't come out and the game then announces 2 new characters while the game is still in development, then I'm going to be pissed. Game comes out, you announce 6 months later, 2 more characters show up, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
It completely depends on when you market it to me. If you market to me while the game hasn't come out and you tell me there are more characters coming out like a week after launch,
who did that?
A month after launch, I feel like I want to say not Dragon Ball, sorry. Guilty Gear X.
Oh really?
Oh my gosh!
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear much.
It just there's just a new. Well, they gave them for free, so they knew better. Okay. But the idea of they just recently released there was what they were doing Ruby versus it's again a versus game, so it's a different characters from different franchises are fighting. Guilty Gear. And then you have Ruby and a couple of, but those characters were free. Actually, I'll probably try to.
Some people in the chat are saying Blaze Blue or Xrd. I don't know how to say.
Those are properties by them. But the idea of being able to release, if you release characters so close,
tag, I think.
I think it's called that sounds versus game. But when you release it super close to the game being released, people are then questioning okay, well, why wasn't that part of the game?
Right, of course.
Right.
But the fact the fact that
it's Blaze Blue cross tag. They are correct.
Okay, Blaze Blue cross tag. But the fact that this report is saying that the majority of people are okay with it means that we've reached a point here in 2018 where the majority of companies have figured out how to do it in a way that is respectful of the consumer. Is that a fair statement?
I think so. Yeah, I totally. I think that we are okay. Someone also mentioned that the chat that half the roster is DLC, which is announced before the game was like complete like even out into people's hands. But they gave a couple of them away for free to kind of like smooth everyone down. But I think we're in this place where we're comfortable. We're comfortable with deals. I mean, with microtransactions. I want microtransactions.
Why do you want microtransactions?
Because I want to be able to pick and choose. I'm an a la carte kind of guy.
Ah, okay.
I like the idea of being
none of this all you
can
eat buffet.
Yeah, no, I don't want to take. I don't want the super channel package with 6 channels I'm not going to watch.
Right.
I want this channel, a little bit of HBO for Game of Thrones, a little bit of super channel, like I'm sorry, a little bit of like super TV, and like just pick and choose what I want because I know how I am. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to buy a whole game. Like I still do the old models for games that I like. Mm-hmm. But,
well, as we see games move to games as a service, that makes even more sense.
Exactly.
Your television analogy is perfect, where the service is this game. I like it best when the game is free. It's like, here's the very base mechanics of the game, and here's customize it by buying exactly all the pieces you want to it.
Well, the thing is, like, it's a sampling, right? It's like you get to taste it, right? You're like, okay, I like this. I'm into this. Right. I can do this. And I'll spend money because, and the thing is, the studies, and I don't think we don't have any studies up with us, but more, you find out, and this is especially true in the esports world, that people spend more money in a microtransaction environment than they would on a full plus game. Like if you ask somebody in Dota 2 how much they've spent on Dota 2, I would I'm going to pull this number out of the air, but I would guess the average is $100 and something over the course of the life cycle of the game. 100 on a low end. Right. Same thing with League of Legends. The amount of people spend on hats was what we call that's what we call it aesthetics in the esports world, hats.
Right.
Based from the TF2 who ushered it into the world, mm-hmm. Is well above the $79 price point of a purchased game.
Sure. Well, look at Pokemon Go, right? That revenue in a game like that is crazy.
I think that we're comfortable with it. We're comfortable because we don't get to see the credit card bill at the one. Like I'm more likely to bulk if I look at my credit card bill and I see I spent $80.
Yeah. I'm
less likely to bulk if I have spent $2 here, $6 here, and then
For sure.
$6 next month. Like I wouldn't even blink an eye. Won't even notice it.
The way I see,
but if you were to add all my transactions together, I'm sure it equals.
But you don't do that. Nobody wants to do that. Yeah.
No one does. No one.
For me in Hearthstone, I would do that a lot with the pack. You're playing and then you're like, one booster pack for I think they're $2 or whatever. I'm like, it's like a chocolate bar. Like, okay, I'll limit myself, and then I tell myself I'll limit myself to one a week. That's how it starts.
You can't do that. That's like Pringles. Like once you pop, you just can't stop, man. It's like,
is that still their slogan? I haven't heard that in a while.
But it's the same kind of idea.
Once the cheese gets flowing, it gets your noodle going.
Right, it's exactly and they know that, right? And $2 here, like Steam does it so well. Like the whole idea is like, what's $2?
Yeah,
what's $5?
Right, it's a coffee, right? It's a latte.
It's a latte, right? And then you're like, all right, I can totally afford a latte. And then you buy 6 of them. You're like, well, I just bought 6 lattes. Shit, right?
Then you go into the diet. But let's get into the lightning round. So we have some questions coming up for you, Drekken. So anybody throw down your questions or your comments on any topics we covered tonight for either myself, Drekken, or for any, just if you want to get heard in the room. So first question from Ginto, or Gintaki. Question for Drekken. How do you feel about Street Fighter V content, in parentheses, characters, being released later, as in almost feeling not complete and expecting you to pay for the rest of the content?
Capcom has such a weird Capcom has such a weird problem with their games. Like this problem has happened straight back from Street Fighter Cross Tekken, when people found the game and they data mined the game and found that characters were on the disc.
Right.
This is it's such a painful, I feel for Capcom because I'm sure they thought it was going to be very clever. And they had no clue that anyone was going to
data mine them,
get their data mine. Like I wouldn't have thought. Like I personally, if I was a Capcom executive, there's no way that would have crossed my mind that someone would have dug into my software and found characters. Right. But they did.
Right.
And ever since then, Capcom has had this weird problem with their communities not A, trusting them, B, really being hurt by the idea of how their games are. And they did Street Fighter V, and they pushed it out to make sure it reached the Capcom Cup appropriate time. And it released without it was missing a lot of core functionality, like single players and stuff like that. And they did come, but they came late. So I don't know. The way I feel is Street Fighter V now, from my friends who still are in FGC and play, and I watch a lot of fighting games still. It looks like a better complete game. Unfortunately, I think it's losing out ground to Dragon Ball Fighter.
Oh, for sure.
Like Dragon Ball Fighter is hot right now. Arc System Works has really, really cleverly capitalized on that game. They're careful. They've timed the releases to trump Capcom, or Capcom is trying to trump Arc System Works with their announcements. But I'm honestly seeing Dragon Ball Fighter come out on top in the fighting game realm this year. We'll see at Evo. Evo is going to be the telling, obviously, depending on how many people go, but or register for the game. But I think Dragon Ball Fighter will hold the top line.
All right. Intaki makes the comment, I know Capcom keeps releasing them Chun-Li outfits on Street Fighter V, and they keep buying them.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you need to only look at Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite to see how the stumbling blocks with Capcom is with their games right now. Capcom is in such a weird place because it's completely reversed. Because you have the Street Fighter franchise massively stumbling, and then you have the Resident Evil franchise that just completely revived itself. So we're in a weird place right now with Capcom and its games.
Next question we got for you, Drekken, from Kat. What do you think of Xbox One's backwards compatibility?
Little too late. Like too little too late. Too little too late. The whole idea of backwards compatibility, I think it should be a mainstay. Like it should be automatic. Like, I don't want to be locked out of my games. I don't want to be locked out of my library. You invest in your library. Let me take it with me. They discovered that. They learned it. They heard it. A little too late. The rollout was slow. It was sluggish. It was obviously first and foremost Microsoft games that were first backwards compatible. So you had this very slow, chunked rollout, which for me, like, I don't know when did we stop supporting backwards compatibility? Like, when did that become optional? Xbox 360 to Xbox One had backwards compatibility.
Super Nintendo didn't have it. It was it was discussed.
Like PlayStation,
it was supposed to have
PlayStation was kind of like PlayStation 2
was the best system ever.
It was the best system ever, right? And like, it's when did we stop? Like, when did we tell people that your library is obsolete? Like, to me, that makes me scared. Like, why am I going to put all, like, if I have these games that I spend, when I did have a library of games, I had like hundreds to thousands of dollars in it. So when I put that money in it, when you start a new system, when you create a new system, that investment, quote unquote, is gone. Like, everything devaluates to like $1.
Right.
Instantly. So I can't, at least at the very minimum, I can't even get my enjoyment out of it because, my system, I have to boot up my old system. I need to, do all these things.
To be fair, I learned about this through the book Console Wars, which is a fantastic read if anybody ever wants to read on the gaming industry. They actually go in and they discuss how the Nintendo executives had this very conversation that they say, we can't have people buy, they're going to freak out if they're buying the Super Nintendo and all of their Nintendo NES games are obsolete and they can't play them on the Super Nintendo. And the original Super Nintendo was developed to support NES cartridges. And at one point in development, near the end, they said, we need, like, I think Sega was coming out at that point as more aggressive, if I recall right. And they said, we can't do it. We have to shave money off or we have to shave costs. And I think to support backwards compatibility, it was like an $8 investment in the Super Nintendo. So they cut that out to be able to drop the Super Nintendo to a reasonable price. So that conversation was happening in the early 90s, and that decision to cut happened there before it was even introduced.
And that makes so much sense. I completely understand the economics of it. But as a consumer, I am not on board. That's why I went to PC. When I realized that I could keep my library across generations, I was like, this is a better investment.
Yeah.
Like, this is
to be fair though, once I play a game, like my play style is I don't touch it again.
Oh, me either. It's completely a mental thing. It's like it has nothing to do.
Do you see this row of blue here? All of my Wii U collection. Like yeah. I put a ton of hours into it, but it's very hard for me to go back there because I have to boot up the Wii U when, meanwhile, I have all these Switch games, all these PS4 games, all these Steam games. Like, why am I going to go back here unless I have a huge craving to go for a specific game?
There will be times where I will boot up a game that I have beaten.
Yeah.
There will be, like, for example, The Wolf Among Us, or The Walking Dead, like those Telltale games. I'll boot up after a while, like just it's like a light playthrough. I'm a big Sonic fan. I love old games like Sonic, so I'll play an old Sonic
like
3,
Sonic Mania?
Sonic and Knuckles.
Sonic Mania. Did you like it?
I did not get that. I got I'm very slow. I think I would love it too. Sonic and I have such a love-hate relationship because I was a Sega boy. I was a Sega boy growing up.
So was I.
So yeah, so I got all the Sonic games up until a certain point where they started bringing all these weird characters into it. I'm like, I'm done now.
Yeah.
But then I got the one where it was Sonic. Oh my God, Back in the Past, where he's him at Generations.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. So you're gonna love Sonic Mania.
Generations so good.
Feels just like the old one.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna. It's on my wish list. So, you guys out there, if you want to,
Yeah, maybe we'll send some donations over to you to get. How much is it right now? $20?
I don't know. I've never looked recently, but once in a while, people will like during Christmas time. People are like, hey, here's a game, play this. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I can totally. Yeah. I agree with you, but I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. There's a lot of people. I know a lot of people in the retro scene. They're completely fine. Like they love just picking a game from the past, from the retro collection that they've played before, and just playing it again. Sean, if he'd be here,
I have a couple of games for just display. Like I have a Sega Genesis right now in my room, like that is just purely for display.
Right.
Original case, original box, like the original Sonic, original Street Fighter, all those stuff, like just in the case, purely for decoration for my room.
Right.
So. They have some sort of aesthetic in that way.
Same here. These things don't get plugged in. I got an NES there, Super Nintendo, GameCube, my original PS2, and there's a TurboGrafx right here and a Sega Genesis under Armilla.
I tried to open up the Sega Genesis once, and there was this connection, like this RF, like coaxial thing.
Yes.
And I was like, fuck is this? What am I gonna plug this into? So I looked at my TV and I'm like, I don't think my TV has this anymore. So it's like, oh. Well,
or I tried to plug. I remember when I tried to plug an Atari and it had the forks. Like, what? What?
So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, you need to like screw. Like there'd be screws on the TV, and you put the fork in and screw it in. I'm just like, what?
I remember it. I distinctly remember that thing because you do it. Like I had something for my antenna. Like I used to have rabbit ears.
Yeah.
Jesus, that makes me feel so old. But rabbit ears for the TV, and I would pull it out and then plug those forks in. Jesus, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh my God, doing that today?
I don't miss it. Well, I didn't do it. Me, it was the coax days where you had to like get behind the TV, and the TVs were these like little flat screen things on swivel boards. It was a massive like CRT thing that weighed a ton. That if you dropped it, it hurt. And it was in those stupid like.
I remember having to.
It was like popular back then to have those big wooden like shelves so that you couldn't even access the back easily. So you have to like.
Yeah,
your
like
arm
the
into, like,
TV stands,
right?
The giant ones.
So you're putting your arm into this black unknown full of like hairy things, like trying to find the hole to like just screw this random like hard wire in there, and oh geez,
man, ridiculous. And then I think some of them still use the yellow cable, the RCA, red, white, and yellow. You know what you didn't mention? I didn't, and maybe I missed this. I don't know if I'm old and I missed it, but like, did they just drop a trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Like a year ago.
Oh,
unless there's a new one.
I'm an old person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone just dropped it in my Discord the other day, and I was like, oh, I didn't see this.
We don't know if that's happening.
I don't know.
There's no.
It was a full CG trailer. It looked nice.
A CG trailer? There's one with gameplay.
CG,
There's actually one with gameplay.
Gameplay trailer. Sorry, gameplay trailer.
Yeah.
And then Kingdom Hearts, I guess. Finally.
Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, you must be a fan of that. Like a Disney boy.
It's funny. I used to be all against Kingdom Hearts because I was like
one of those.
It was the PlayStation. It was the console wars. So yeah. I was like, yeah, N64 is gonna rule the day. Your PlayStation guys are kids.
You were the Nintendo 64 kid.
I was a Nintendo 64 kid. I was like, yeah, we got Quest 64, boy. You know, this is the real RPG.
Yeah, playing your Quest 64.
Silly kids. Quest 64, right? So, you know, people are like, we got Final Fantasy, and I'm like, yeah, you guys are for kids, though. You got Kingdom Hearts. He's gonna, you know, play with Disney and Goofy.
Turns out everybody did.
I know. Well, I was obviously wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
I am not afraid to admit it.
Apparently 2 days ago there was
my best gaming days.
There was news that they had to remake the characters or something. They're probably going to end up making Cloud super emo. I don't have faith that they are going to bring Final Fantasy VII back in a proper light. Like cannot. The expectations are so high. No matter how good the game is, you cannot. They would have been better off to do all this work they're doing for Final Fantasy VII, and you just call it like Final Fantasy. You don't even call it Final Fantasy. You just start new and you call it new IP.
New IP,
and then people are like, "Oh, this is a great game."
I think that was what isn't that what like Final Fantasy 15 was? I feel like that was the Final Fantasy.
They almost did it. I enjoyed 15. It was the first one I enjoyed in a while.
Did you?
Yeah.
I actually have not played the game. I just watched the anime. I watched the movies. I watched all the marketing material.
It turns out that movie is the intro to the game because after Chapter 2. Like an event happens at the end of Chapter 1, but they don't tell you what it is. And I'm like, what the hell's going on in this game? Like nothing made sense to me after Chapter 2. And then someone's like, oh, you have to go watch the anime. I was like, or the movie. I was like, what? So I go watch this 1.5-hour movie, which is exactly what happens between Chapter 1 and 2. I'm like, really? They cut that out of the game? Like, it's critical information.
Really weird because like this, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, this movie looks like this is like, I'm like, is this the game condensed? Because like, I thought this was like Noxus, you know, they're like, where's Noxus? Where's this prince?
Right. No, this is the whole thing that drives Noctis's quest. Like the whole plot, like the driving point of the plot is tossed into a movie instead of the game.
Yeah, so that was really weird for me because I'm watching this movie. Preference, I never actually, like, I didn't know the whole game. Like, the only way I know about the game in terms of storyline is from watching the anime. Because there's like a Crunchyroll has the anime for Final Fantasy.
Really?
15 part of the promotion, and I kind of got the gist of it from there. And then I watched this 1-hour movie, and I was like, "Oh, this seems very important." Like this
key information here.
It seems like this is like. I mean, at first I thought it was like the game condensed into a movie, but there's no Noctis, so I'm like, "Oh, that like, I don't understand."
Yeah. Yeah. So
the princesses in.
So the big takeaway in the game, it's a newspaper headline that key individual that dies in the film. That's all you get in chat. Like Chapter 2 opens up with, this person died, and it's like, what? That sounds like a big deal, and yeah, it turns out it is.
And the movie basically explains how that happens.
Yeah, and who all these sub characters are and the villains and all that.
Yeah, because like I noticed a couple people in that movie get like, I don't want to say canonized, but they're kind of like, you know, these standouts. Like, this guy must be important.
Right.
This guy probably is going to be like a major bad guy. This guy gets his face burned. He obviously must be important, or hand burned, or whatever.
Yeah, he gets a scar. So.
Yeah, scar. I mean, okay, that looks like an origin story if I've ever seen one.
For sure. All right, we are at the 1.5 mark, so we're going to come to a close. Drekken, what if people want to find out more about you or want to follow your pursuits and your dreams and all that good stuff? Where can they find you? Where do you want them to follow and support you?
My good people, please, if you want to find out more about StarCraft, like my StarCraft events and shows that we put on, follow us at ESChamp, twitch.tv/ESChamp, and then everything, all the other socials, ESChamp. If you want to find me personally, Dreksama is my handle, but I usually post under ESChamp.
Is that 2Ks? From Drek 2Ks?
2Ks, yeah. Dreksama is my handle on most games. Like, to be honest though, I'm mostly on Discord. Like, that's my hangout spot more than anything than on any social media. But you can use Dreksama to find me pretty much on any platform to hunt me down. So
very good. Well, thank you very much, Drekken, for hanging out with us and sharing your story and your thoughts. Next week, everybody, we've got another guest which will be joining us. Sean will also be returning on next week's show. And we are bringing back Jules Watson, the founder of Atui now, the sole person over there. So he's going to come over and talk about, I really want to poke his brain as to what it was like going from the 3DS development cycle to the Switch. So Zeo Drifter just came out on the Switch last week. He ported Mutant Mudds late last year. So it's going to be very interesting because Jules has been developing games on the 3DS for over a decade. That doesn't make sense. For Nintendo handhelds for over a decade. And now here he is on still a handheld, but an HD capable handheld. So it's going to be very interesting to hear Jules' thoughts on that and to see how everything developed, evolved, and how things have changed for him. So join us next week at this time. Well, not this time. At 8 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday. We'll be back with Sean and Jules. We'll see you guys then. Until then, keep it classy. Or as I guess Drekken would say, would you say keep it classy or keep it crassy?
I'll keep it classy. Classy. We'll do classy and classy.
Very nice. It was nice.
That's the episode for today.
Classy square tonight. All right. See you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Peace.